Okay, let's get straight to the point. What you've heard, and what you hear on social media about Kundalini, a lot of it is nonsense. So we're going to run through here. I've got a list here of the 101 of the most common questions asked about Kundalini awakening. And let's just go through them. This could be quite a long video. We'll see. What exactly is a Kundalini awakening? That's the first question, the big one. Well, Kundalini awakening is the rising of energy, the internal energy, that cosmic Shakti energy, rising up to meet consciousness that you bring down, you connect to everything. That's what it is. Literally. How do I know if my Kundalini has awakened? You're going to know. You're going to know because it's not a single one-off experience. It is a complete connection to the energies around you and to consciousness. It is a submission to knowing and knowledge and everything there is that you are able to feel. It is a non-dualistic connection to the one and not a sporadic thing, a continuous thing. What is the difference between Kundalini activation and Kundalini awakening? Kundalini activation is moving pranic energy. It is healing the traumas in your body. It is the precursor, we could say in a way, not necessarily, to prepare you for an awakening. It is a clearing. It is a healing. Can Kundalini awakening happen spontaneously without practice? It can. It is extremely rare. For the most people that think they've gone through it, they haven't. So yes, it does happen, but it is exceedingly rare. Do I need to be a vegan to awaken my Kundalini? No. Simple as that. No. Is Kundalini awakening the same as enlightenment? Depending on your definition of enlightenment, yes, it is. No pedestals, no putting it up there, something that's unattainable, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it is. And it is at least the point of where you can experience enlightenment. 7. What are the most common symptoms, physical symptoms of energy rising? Spontaneous kriyas in the beginning stages, that is the moving of the prana, that is the rising of Shakti, heat, vibration, sensations running through the body. But mainly, it is that connection to oneness. 8. Are intense emotions a normal part of Kundalini? No. They are the precursor to. You will experience states of amazement, of bliss, of wow, as you realize things, sure. But the symptoms that most people talk about are all precursors. It's not about the energy moving the body and releasing traumas. That isn't Kundalini, that is prana. 9. Oh, what's gone wrong here? 1 second. 9. Can Kundalini awakening cause mental illness or psychosis? Yeah, if you're not properly prepared, it is a possibility, especially if you're doing it by yourself. If you don't clear those shadows, if you don't open yourself up, if you don't submit, you run the possibility of that, or more commonly, entering a dark night of the soul, which people misunderstand as a psychosis. When it comes to mental illness, it's because when people reach that stage, it can be misdiagnosed if things go wrong as bipolar syndrome. I'm not saying everyone who has bipolar syndrome means they've had an awakening. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying there's a misdiagnosis when people run into problems. How long does a Kundalini awakening last? Well, if you have a permanent connection, it's forever. How long does it take to awaken? It doesn't take years. The preparation, you can take a lifetime if you want, but the actual event itself, it, it it's not a measurement of time. So there's lots of preparation work, but once you fully connect and you become aware of it and you realize what's happening, it's moments. That's it. Is it dangerous to try and force Kundalini to rise? Well, if you're forcing it, you're trying to control it. It's not something you force, it's something you submit to. So if you try and force energies before you're ready, your ego is going to fight you, and that's where the danger lies. Can I go back to sleep once awakened? Yeah, you can. Once awakened. If you're halfway through the process, you need to finish the process. But once you've got there, like everything, your body adjusts, you get used to it, you can go back to your normal life and ignore it. So yeah, basically you can. What is Shakti Pat and do I need it? Shakti Pat is a transmission of the Shakti energy. We then have Shiva Pat, which is a transmission of the consciousness. Do you need it? Not necessarily, but boy, does it make the journey easier, especially if that person isn't only just giving you the energy, they are teaching you, they are guiding you through the process. It's very helpful. It's not obligatory, but it's helpful. 14. Can breathwork or pranayama awaken Kundalini? Awaken Kundalini? No. Can it create movement of the energies within the body to make energy flow? On a non-permanent state, yeah, it can help energies flow through the body, clearly. But does it fully awaken you? No. Is sexual energy the same as Kundalini? No, sexual energy is known as Jing. It is a creative energy that is within the body. It's one of the easiest ones to tap into. The second easiest one is Chi or prana, but is definitely not Kundalini. There are ancient texts that say they're the same, and they are wrong because once you have Kundalini flowing, you can use the Jing to help activate the energy. But once Kundalini Shakti, that cosmic energy, is activated and awakened, you do not need the Jing to stay connected to it. So no, they are different. Do I need a guru or a teacher to awaken Kundalini? No, but boy, does it make the process easier. 17. What are kriyas and are they necessary? Oh. Practicing kriyas, not necessary. Spontaneous kriyas are created when pranic energy moves through the body and clears your body and opens channels, so they are part of the beginning process. Do you have to have them? No, because there are lots of the traumas stored in the body that can be removed in other ways. They don't happen to everybody. So no, they're not necessarily a part of it, but they can show you, these spontaneous kriyas, that something is going on in the lower stages, in the healing stages, in the coming back to your 0 point. 18. Are spontaneous body movements, kriyas, normal? I think I just answered this. They can be, but they're not necessarily a must. 19. How do I ground myself during an awakening? Well, During the process, it can be useful to ground yourself. But when you're going through that actual awakening, you have to submit to the energy and go with the flow. It's not about grounding. It's about rising. That's the whole point of it. So it's a mute question, really. How do you ground yourself afterwards? There are many techniques, and to go into all of those techniques in this video, wow. 20. We're getting there. Will Kundalini change my personality or relationships? Yes, because you will understand things in a new level that you never even thought about previously. 21. Can trauma trigger a Kundalini awakening? Yes, but they're not necessarily negative traumas. So a Kundalini rising event can happen for women in childbirth. It doesn't mean to say you've had a full Kundalini awakening, it's just the energy has risen. That's very different. Can trauma trigger a rising of Shakti? Yes. Does it mean it's going to create a permanent Kundalini awakening? Very unlikely, unless it's, for example, a near-death experience or an out-of-body experience because you actually die. So again, we're talking about things that are very, very rare. 22. Are visions, lights, auditory phenomena part of Kundalini? Yes, they are. Simple as that. 23. Is Kundalini linked to chakras, and which ones? Yes, all of them, none of them individually, all of them working as a complete system. Easily answered. 24. How to distinguish Kundalini... I've lost my point, sorry. How to distinguish Kundalini symptoms from medical issues? That is a great point. If you've always had medical issues, then they're just medical issues. If you're going through the process of awakening and things start to arise, then that would be a key indicator, wouldn't it? It's a pretty simple thing when you think about it. Should I stop medication if I think Kundalini is happening? I'm not a doctor. I'm not qualified to answer that question. Legally, only medical professionals can answer that question. 26. Can Kundalini awakening improve intuition or psychic ability? Can it? No, it will. 27. Are headaches or head pressure normal during an awakening? Yes. 28. Why do I feel heat or cold moving through my body? This happens not just in Kundalini awakening. If you start to awaken, for example, your Lao Gong, the meridian point in your hands, if you awaken that fully and your hands are in your feet, you will feel heat. That is the physical sensation we get when energy starts flowing. This can be heat, this can be cold. Again, very simple. Where are we? 29. Is Kundalini related to Kundalini yoga only? No, it's actually has very little to do with Kundalini yoga. Kundalini yoga is a type of yoga that was given the name Kundalini. It can be great for healing. It can be great for a preparatory process, and that's what they claim, nothing more. Can psychedelics cause a Kundalini awakening? There are people that have had spontaneous awakenings due to not just psychedelics, but drugs. And that is when it can become very, very dangerous because you're not able to control it, especially you're on drugs or plant medicines. But generally, no. Generally, psychedelics will help you, as the name plant medicine of psychedelics, it will open up a channel to you, it will help you to heal, but it's not going to give you a full Kundalini awakening. It might give you a glimpse of something, but that's it. I've lost where I am. This keeps moving with my finger. Sorry about this. 31. What dietary changes can help or hinder Kundalini? Dietary changes to help: eat healthy, don't eat processed foods. Hinder: eat processed foods. Is it about meat? Is it? No, it's just not. If you think one tiny change of your diet is going to help you, it's such an insignificant part of this is going to be the catalyst to create it. I would say getting good sleep is way more important than any dietary changes. 32. Are dreams intensified during a Kundalini process? Yes. 33. Sweating, tremors, shaking, is it normal? In the awakening phases, yes. The sweating can happen whenever your energy rises, just as that feeling of the heat. It can literally cause you to physically sweat. 34. Can Kundalini cause sexual dysfunction or hypersexuality? Yes, for a short term. 35. How to work safely with Kundalini energy at home? Shadow work, shadow work, shadow work, shadow work, shadow work. You must break down those shadows, and then you must be able to submit fully to the energies, because the energy will take the path of least resistance. Your ego will fight back. Shadows. 36. Should I tell my family or hide my experiences? Well, first of all, that depends on your family and your friends. Second of all, do they know about it? Or is it just you're going to tell them and they're going to, someone who has no knowledge about this, share their opinion of what's happening to you? Yeah. That's a one-on-one thing. But generally, what difference does it make? Because you need confirmation from people that know nothing about it, because you need their opinion. That's what you're going to get, their opinion. 37. Can Kundalini awakenings be suppressed or blocked? It's not a good idea. What can happen once you've gone through the full process, you can then sort of go back to daily life and get busy. Yeah, sure. But as it's happening, you want to go through it. It's an amazing thing. 38. What's the role of meditation in Kundalini awakening? Well, not much really. Because it's not so much about meditation, it's about just being open and submitting to the flow. If you call meditation submission and connection to the one, perhaps. If you call meditation emptying the mind and sitting there, it's not going to do anything. 39. Is Kundalini an actual energy or a metaphor for psychological change? We'll talk to martial artists and ask them whether chi and building the chi to perform feats of strength is a metaphor. 40. Do certain yoga poses stimulate Kundalini more? No. Just like if I hold my hands one in front of the other, it doesn't stimulate a chi ball. You actually have to perform something. Or a mudra, just doing this doesn't do anything. You actually have to cycle the energy through to make it do something. 41. Are there stages or phases to the Kundalini process? Yes. You have the healing stage, you have the Shakti energy rising stage, and you have the consciousness descent phase. We can split those into many more phases, but basically those are the 3 stages of the process. 42. Can men and women experience Kundalini differently? Apart from Shakti being triggered through childbirth accidentally, why is it going to be different? What's the difference? Because of our hormones, because of our difference in reproductive organs? That's going to make a difference. When it comes to consciousness, when it comes to energy, why? 43. What is a dark night of the soul versus Kundalini syndrome? Dark night of the soul is your ego fighting back, trying to shut you down to keep you safe. Kundalini syndrome is when you push your brain too far and it breaks, causing a state of psychosis. Feeling depressed, feeling anxiety, feeling the pressures of your programming, dark night of the soul, is not breaking your brain. 44. How do I handle intrusive thoughts during an awakening? Why would you be having intrusive thoughts during an awakening? If you are fully submitted to the energy, to consciousness, those things will have been left behind. So if you're having them, you're not ready. 45. Can Kundalini cause loss of appetite or changes of digestion? Yes, because the energy is more than just metaphorical. 46. And not just loss of appetite and digestive changes, changes in mood, changes in sleep pattern, changes in many, many things. 46. Is it normal to feel disassociation or depersonalization? Yes, because if you are connecting to the one, to the collective consciousness, that's part of it. 47. How to integrate Kundalini experiences into everyday life? Be open, be aware, see the flow, feel the energy, the interactions. You'll see for yourself when you do it. If you ignore them, then you're fighting yourself. 48. Can Kundalini awaken only partially? Yes, these are partial risings. It's not a full awakening. This is what most people who say, I've had a Kundalini awakening experience. It's a partial rising. If it was even Kundalini, it might just be prana flowing through the body and feeling awesome. 49. What is a top-down awakening versus to a bottom-up? This is a good question. Bottom-up is the energy connecting from the root up to the head into the space of consciousness. Top-down, well, it's sort of activating the energy in the head first, which then needs to go down the spine to connect to the Jed pillar, to rise back up again, to connect. People will give you a million definitions. You can say, well, can I connect to consciousness first and then to Shakti? You can connect to consciousness first. You can have amazing events. Look at Einstein with the theory of relativity. He said he experienced it, then he designed the math around it. He had a consciousness connection experience. Does it mean his Kundalini awakened? I don't know. There's not enough information out there. But so possibly that is a possible example of, and everybody has these wow moments, sporadic moments when they get things, they have a partial connection to the consciousness. It's got nothing to do with the energy. 50, nearly halfway there. Are heart openings and spontaneous compassion part of it? Yes, because that is awakening one of the main chakras, isn't it? 51. How to find a trustworthy teacher or community? Good question. There are many great teachers out there. There are many terrible teachers out there. There are many amazing communities, and there are others that turn into sects. There are some that are biased and judgmental, and others that are open and all willing to help each other. How do you find them? Research, testing, asking. Same as anything else on in this planet. How do you find a good doctor? Same thing. How do you find a good teacher of anything? Same thing. How do you find a good school? How do you find a good mechanic? Same thing. 52. Are there reliable tests to confirm Kundalini? Well, what would the test be? It's not something that we test for. When you know, you know. It is a knowing, not something to physically test. 53. How to distinguish Kundalini from placebo or imagination? Imagination, you create it consciously or subconsciously. Placebo, same thing. If you think you've had a Kundalini experience, a Kundalini awakening, the best way I recommend to people that work with me, clients that work with me, my students, I don't tell them the whole process. They go through the process and then I say, right, go to my community of other people that have been through the process. And once you've experienced it, you can compare it and ask them, and then you will realize you had the same experience that they had without any previous knowledge of what happened. Now you can do that if you train with me within the community, or you can simply go and find people that have had that experience. But you must know they've had that experience and not just claiming they've had that experience. That's the tricky one there. If you don't have a specific place to find these people. 54. Are sleep disturbances common during awakening? Yes. 55. Can Kundalini cause hearing loss or tinnitus? Hearing loss? Never heard about it. Tinnitus? Well, a ringing in the ears, most definitely. That is part of it. But it's not really tinnitus. It's a clairaudience connection. Tinnitus is something different, although they can sound similar. And within the tinnitus, sensations in Kundalini, there is not just one frequency, there are different frequencies we can start tapping into. So it can be a very high-pitched sound, it can be a very low-pitched sound, it depends. 56. Is fasting helpful or harmful during a Kundalini awakening? Same as the food. Does it help? It can. If you make your physical body slightly weaker through lack of sleep, through fasting, etc., are you able to submit more? Yes. Does it mean it'll happen? No. Does it mean you're also increasing the possible risks as well? So, 57. Can Kundalini activate latent illnesses? That's a good question. I do not have enough information to definitely say yes or no on that. That is a very difficult question to answer. Most people, I would say generally, no. But is it possible? Again, I cannot confirm or deny that. I just don't have the data for it. 58. What to do during sudden energetic surges? Ride the wave, submit, go with it. 59. Can Kundalini help with addiction recovery? Yes. It can also increase risks, but yes, it's not something that I would say do to recover from addiction, because whilst it can help, it can also make things worse. Yeah. So as I said, your diet can change. So you might suddenly, when you go through these processes, stop eating meat because your body just doesn't want them. But it can also make you want to eat it more. So whilst, yes, don't use it for that reason. 60. How to stop overwhelming energy or panic attacks? Well, Shadow work. You should have worked your shadows, which cause the anxiety and those panic attacks and the overwhelmingness, because you are not submitting fully to the energy. You haven't reached the ability, so you have to stop and you have to do that, and you have to work on that before going any further. 61. Is constant crying or emotional release normal? In the healing, in the pranic, in the pranapat stages, yes. Afterwards, no. 62. How does Kundalini affect sexuality and relationships? Sexuality, we've already answered that question. Relationships, how it affects it, it will change you. It will change your personality, so that can have a positive effect on some relationships and it'll have a negative effect on others. You will see some people are worth spending time with and others aren't, because you'll be able to see the situation for what it is. Positive and negative. Works both ways. 63. Can Kundalini cause memory or concentration problems? Problems? No. Can it help? Yes. If you have shadows that you haven't resolved, that's when you're going to have the issues. So again, there's a theme there. 64. Should I stop all stimulants, coffee, alcohol during an awakening? Why? It's the same as food. Obviously, if you reduce the intakes to, if you're a coffee addict or an alcoholic, then, work on those things first. If you have a cup of coffee, so what? If you have a beer, a Friday evening after work and you have a beer, then, do you need to stop that? No. It's like eating meat or eating vegetables or whatever. It's a tiny thing compared to Kundalini. 65, can Kundalini give clairvoyant or precognitive experiences? Yes, they're called the siddhis. 66, and it's one of the things that activates during Kundalini are the siddhis. Over time, once going through it, or whilst you're going through it. Certain ones will activate going through, certain ones will activate afterwards. 66. What is the role of trauma-informed practices in Kundalini work? Healing. It's the beginning. 67. Can Kundalini awakening be gradual over years? No. That's a healing process that can take you many years. It can take you an entire lifetime. But the actual awakening, once you go into it, no. 68. Is it possible to practice Kundalini safely? Yes. Use a teacher, use a guru. They can help you. Does it mean it's going to be 100% safe? No. So you can reduce risks, just like you take driving lessons to drive a car. You put a seatbelt on to drive a car. Does that mean you can never get injured in a car accident? No. 69. How to support the nervous system during the process? Support the nervous system during the process. Go through all the stages. Go through the energetic release. Go through pranic movement of the body. Move the energy through the body. Get used to it. In my trainings, it's one of the big things we do. We go through that. Release the shadows. Another big part of my training. It's if you do all of that stuff, that's how you support the nervous system. What role does breath hold kumhaka play? Very little. If your body spontaneously, and normally it does, changes the way you breathe, awesome. Doing it purposely to try and do it, is it going to cause it? No. Same as what we said before about the asanas. 71. Can a bad guide or imitation practices harm me? Yes. Someone can guide you down the wrong path. Just as if someone taught you to drive badly, You're not going to drive well, are you? Common sense. 72. What are the common misconceptions about Kundalini online? All of this. That it's dangerous, that it's demonic, that it's blah, 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 blah. All of that religious nonsense. Is 73. Is Kundalini culturally specific to Hindu tantric context? No, it happens in every culture around the world. 47. 74. How does energy grounding differ from avoidance? Well, grounding, that's a very weird question, but it's a commonly asked one. To avoid grounding, you're not grounding. By rooting yourself to the earth and letting everything sink, that's not avoidance. Very strange question some people ask. 75. Can Kundalini cause appetite for raw or specific foods? We've covered that. Are panic attacks during Kundalini different from clinical ones? Well, panic attacks during Kundalini means you haven't worked your fears, you haven't worked your shadows. It's your ego fighting you. How to tell if it's Kundalini or an endocrine issue? Kundalini isn't an issue. It's not a negative thing. So if you think you are having a spontaneous awakening, then perhaps go to the doctor and have your endocrine system tested to see if you have something wrong in your body, rather than just assuming it's a Kundalini awakening. 78. Should I seek medical psychological help alongside spiritual support? Well, as the law says, always seek medical advice. 79. Can Kundalini work accelerate spiritual evolution? Well, that's what the whole point is. 80. Is Kundalini related to Kundalini yoga kriyas taught by Yogi Bhajan? No. 81. Not directly. 81. Can Kundalini awakenings be induced by sound or music? No. There are certain frequencies that can help you, but yeah, what you see on YouTube, awaken your Kundalini by listening to this music. Yeah, no. 82. And especially when it comes to MP3, but no. 82. What is the relationship between Kundalini and the subtle body? Everything. The subtle body is the subtle energies. That is how we connect to Kundalini Shakti. It's everything. 83. How to manage sudden sensitivity to light, sound, or smell? Accept it. 84. And I mean, just accept it. Just go with the flow. Relax. Allow these things to come in. Allow them to pass. 84. What do mantras play in Kundalini awakening? Very little, really. They can help you get to a point of concentration, just as any meditation practice, but do mantras awaken your Kundalini? No. They can help you attune to your subtle body? Fine. 85. Can Kundalini cause involuntary vocalizations or chanting? Yes. When we are talking about the activation of the throat chakra, when we are talking about the release of we're talking about the beginning stages here, so that'll happen. When we are talking about the release of trauma, vocalizing it, getting it out, that can help. But it doesn't mean to say that, oh, it closed off on me. It doesn't mean to say that it's actually going to play a role. You don't need them in any way, shape, or form. But yes, it does cause them when going through those bits in the preliminary stages. 86. Is Kundalini connected to spiritual possession myths? No. No. Spiritual possession myths are myths. They are, yeah. When you're working with Kundalini, you're working way above all those programmed ideas, and if you're still thinking on those levels, don't even go anywhere near Kundalini, because it's just gonna help you to break your brain. 87. Can chronic fatigue be a long-term effect of Kundalini? Not if you do it properly. And if it is, it's because there's something that you haven't released, something's stuck, and something's got stuck, and you need to go into grounding. And can you feel lethargic as you clear things like dark night of the soul, like depression? Yes, because you haven't cleared stuff. Go back, do the shadow work. 88. How to cultivate stability after an intense awakening? It's embody the new frequency. It's go with the flow. It's feel it. It's embody it. It's submit to it. It's realize things have changed rather than fighting it. If you fight it, that's where the problems come in. That's where the issues come in. 89. Are there ethical issues in offering Shaktipat or transmission work? If adults consent, adults consent. What are the issues? If you're an adult and you give consent, there are no issues. You have consented. You have researched it. You know what you're getting into. If you don't, then that's on you, isn't it? Simple as that. If you go to someone and you don't do your research on them and you have a bad experience because they push you too far, is that their fault or is that your fault? I'm not a type of person that believes in promoting victimhood. Do your research, know what you're doing, go slow, test. Don't be a victim. Can Kundalini lead to paranormal experiences or encounters? Yes. 91. How does one measure progress after awakening? Once you're awake, you're awake. It's not about reaching a goal. It's not about levels. Once you've awakened, you're going to know this. So if you think you've awakened and you're still asking, what's next? What's the progress? You're still in the old mindset. Can I have more than one awakening in a lifetime? You can have partial risings, then it's not an awakening. If you have an awakening and you're fully connected, it only happens once. Then you're connected. Once you're connected, you can ignore it, you can go about your daily life type of thing. Yeah, and so then you can come back to it 10 years later, but you're still connected. It's nearly there. 93. Is Kundalini linked to chakra clearing or shadow work? I think I've answered that question most definitely. Very related to shadow work. We can call it chod, we can call it whatever, we can call it breaking down of your programming is actually a better way to describe it. Breaking down your armor, de-armoring. 94. How to prevent burnout during intense practices? Go with the flow, submit to it. If you fully submit, you're not going to burn out. If you're not fully submitted, that's when you can burn out. Then you shouldn't be doing it in the first place. If you got to that stage, go back, do the shadow work. Question why you're doing what you're doing. 95. Can dancing or movement practices trigger Kundalini? Prana, they can trigger. Prana, they can trigger. Jing, that sensual energy. They can make you feel wonderful. They can be amazing. Are they going to trigger Shakti? Okay. Where are we? I've lost my place. 96. What are safe daily practices during an ongoing awakening? Connecting to the energy every day. Going with the flow. Submitting to the process. 97. How to distinguish spiritual experiences from delusions? That's a very good question. Delusions. The way I tend to explain this to people is if something occurs, maybe it's a voice, maybe it's a vision, and it's clear, it's to the point, it's once, that's likely a spiritual experience. If it's repeating over and over and over and over and over and over and over, if it's negative, if it's almost like the monkey mind eating at you, that's a delusion. Once, very straight, doesn't repeat, spiritual experience. Repetition, negative, delusion. 98. Can Kundalini awakenings cause change in libido or fertility? In libido, most definitely. Infertility, that's not necessarily Kundalini awakening, that is just pranic healing. 99, and even the libido bit, it's not really Kundalini awakening, that is energy moving through the body, that's prana. 99. What books or resources are trusted for learning about Kundalini? That's a massive question. There are, just because a book is ancient doesn't mean to say it's fully reliable. There are tantric sutras that explain that it's the sexual energy is the same as Kundalini energy. It is wrong. There are books that people swear by certain authors that say, oh, I've read this book, so I know everything. Yeah, that author, great beginner book, basic understanding, but that's all they had. Just because it was from the past doesn't mean to say it's better from people teaching it today who've read that book and 1,000 other books and had experience rather than just a one-pointed view of it. So that's very difficult. There are some modern books that are amazing, but then whilst someone writes an amazing book doesn't mean to say they actually fully understand everything about it. It means they just experienced it. So 100. How to integrate Kundalini into service or teaching roles? Once you've had the experience, research. Just as a doctor's practice, it's called a practice. You need to practice on yourself. You need to find people to work with in a group together, all consenting adults. It's the way you do it. Same as everything else in life. 101, last one. Is there a right way to experience Kundalini? Define right. When going through an awakening, everyone that has gone through it with me, everyone that I speak to, have similar experiences. The only difference is, and this is a big difference, if it is a spontaneous awakening, not done through a teacher, guru, or master, the risks are slightly higher. You have to really submit, go with the flow, be 100% fearless. I mean, you do with a guru as well. But it's going to be a much bigger boom factor because you're not going to have been through every process, or you haven't been guided through a process to break those things down. So when Shakti rises, it's going to be like a bomb rather than a trickle of water opening up slowly to a waterfall and a smooth ride. That's the biggest difference. Those are the 101 most ask questions. I've run through them very briefly, but I've answered them very straight. Go back, review if you didn't get your question answered. Hopefully this will help you if you are seeking the path of an awakening. See you in another video.